Hello. Tonight we embark on a tranquil journey back to an era when the map of our world was written by ice and water, long before the first cities rose. This exploration will carry you through thousands of years of human ingenuity, revealing how simple coastal paths paved the way for humanity to eventually conquer the vast open oceans. You look out at the modern ocean, but tonight we are traveling back 20,000 years to the peak of the last glacial maximum. During this icy epoch, the world hoards its water in massive continental glaciers, causing global sea levels to drop more than 120 meters below where they rest today. Vast stretches of fertile plain and exposed continental shelf extend from the modern coasts, creating massive land bridges that connect islands and continents in ways we can scarcely imagine now. Ironically, this means some of the prime beachfront real estate of the ancient world is currently sitting under a couple of 100 feet of saltwater, completely unavailable for modern tourism. So, before you get completely comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you truly enjoy what we're creating here. Please feel free to share your current location and local time in the comments below, as we love knowing where in the world you are listening from tonight. Now, slowly dim the lights. Perhaps turn on a fan, letting the steady hum of the air fill the room, and in that gentle rhythm, we quietly step into tonight's journey together. You stand on one of these ancient coastal plains, listening to the gentle, rhythmic sigh of an ocean that sits miles away from the modern shore. The air is crisp and cool, carrying the sharp, clean scent of salt mixed with the earthy fragrance of damp coastal tundra. Waves lap against the shoreline with a soft, muted whisper, their energy spent rolling across wide, shallow flats of sand and smooth pebbles. Each tide advances and retreats with an incredibly slow, predictable cadence, acting as the primary clock for the small groups of humans who live here. Early travelers leave footprints upon wet sand, quietly erased forever by the returning tide before another peaceful sunrise arrives. Geologists studying these ancient coastlines use advanced sonar and core drilling to map these drowned landscapes, revealing a dynamic world of shifting boundaries. As the global climate slowly begins to warm, huge ice sheets melt, releasing immense volumes of fresh water back into the global ocean basin. The shoreline does not change overnight in a dramatic rush, but rather inches forward year by year, gently reclaiming the low-lying plains. It is a slow, graceful dance of changing landscapes where forests, beaches, and marshes quietly shift with the rising sea. Each generation simply moves their camp a little farther inland, accepting these gentle changes as another ordinary rhythm within nature's endless cycle together. This gradual transformation encourages quiet observation, inviting you to witness the earth breathing across countless generations. Time gently expands, leaving behind every trace of modern urgency and following the calm rhythm of the natural world. You imagine sitting upon a grassy dune, watching the sun drift slowly through a pale blue sky while the sea steadily advances. There is no ambition to build kingdoms or conquer distant horizons, only the quiet wisdom of understanding water, patience, change, and enduring balance together. Mist slowly rises from the damp coastal ground, softening the boundary between dark earth and the pale, peaceful sea. The distant horizon dissolves into gentle shades of gray, hiding the place where water quietly meets the sky. Somewhere beyond the fading light, a seabird calls once before silence returns across the shoreline. Nearby, early families gather around glowing fires whose steady warmth eases the evening chill. They trust the ocean, embracing its steady rhythms as faithful companions through every ordinary day. The gentle scent of burning driftwood drifts through the cool evening air, comforting weary travelers just as it had for countless generations before. Firelight flickers softly across dark coastal rocks, casting long shadows that move gracefully over the sand like silent ancient spirits. Everyone knows the tide will return tomorrow, bringing fresh opportunities and new paths beside the sea. Tonight, however, darkness creates a peaceful refuge, surrounding the shore with calm security, while your thoughts quietly settle beside fading embers together. As the night grows deeper, stars emerge one after another through the thinning mist, reflecting clearly across the smooth, rain-darkened sand. The vast sky feels endless, Yet this quiet shoreline offers remarkable comfort to those who understand its rhythms. Gentle voices sharing old stories blend naturally with tiny waves brushing the beach. Hidden within this peaceful place lies enduring wisdom, teaching careful attention to subtle shifts in wind, tide, and silence that shape every passing moment through quiet observation together. The cool breeze gradually changes direction, drifting gently from the forest toward the open sea, while carrying fragrant pine and damp earth into the darkness. The ocean welcomes those familiar scents, returning its timeless fragrance of salt, kelp, and mysterious depths. Together, land and water continue an endless conversation begun long before humanity arrived. Along this narrow meeting place, people discover harmony through cooperation, adapting patiently instead of struggling against powerful natural forces that always remain greater than themselves. Watching the dark water carefully, you notice delicate flashes of bioluminescent plankton, sparkling like scattered emeralds whenever small waves touch the shore. It seems as though countless stars have slipped from the heavens into the cold northern sea, forming a glowing path across the night. Curious children would marvel at the shimmering water, while experienced elders quietly recognized a favorable moment for gathering food. Nature itself offered gentle illumination, guiding travelers safely through darkness without disturbing peaceful surroundings. Beneath these ancient waters rest remarkable secrets that modern archaeology is only beginning to reveal through patient underwater exploration. Hidden forests, preserved peat bogs, and carefully shaped stone tools remain beneath the waves where earlier coastlines once existed. Every discovery reflects communities responding calmly as rising seas transformed familiar landscapes. Instead of resisting nature with permanent monuments, they embraced flexible ways of living, moving gracefully alongside changing tides while respecting Earth's enduring rhythms through quiet resilience every season. As this first chapter gently reaches its end, the ancient shoreline becomes wonderfully calm beneath the quiet night sky. The fire has faded into glowing red embers, offering soft warmth against the cool evening dew. Beyond the beach, the ocean continues its timeless breathing, repeating rhythms unchanged across countless generations. Resting peacefully upon the dark earth, you release every modern concern. The distant misty horizon promises another dawn, while tonight remains a sanctuary filled with silence, comfort, renewal, and hope. The dawn breaks over the prehistoric coastline not with a sudden burst of brilliant light, but with a gradual pearlescent softening of the eastern sky. You observe the small coastal communities waking to the gentle rhythm of the morning, their movements slow and deliberate as they greet the new day. The air is remarkably still, holding the cool dampness of the night until the sun climbs high enough to warm the dark rocks. These early humans do not live in constant, desperate struggle. Instead, they exist in a state of comfortable abundance provided by the sea. Their lives are deeply synchronized with the predictable movements of the moon, which reliably dictates the high and low tides twice every single day. Archaeologists exploring ancient coastlines often uncover towering shell middens, remarkable landmarks preserving the memory of generations who lived beside the sea. Found across Japan, South Africa, and Atlantic Europe, these immense mounds contain millions of discarded shells gathered over centuries of steady occupation. Far more than refuse, they reveal thriving communities returning to familiar shores year after year. Their salty scent once signified abundance and security, reminding every family that the generous ocean would continue providing dependable meals through every changing season with quiet certainty. Looking around the camp, you notice an impressive collection of carefully crafted tools resting neatly upon woven reed mats beside simple shelters. Skilled hands patiently shape strong animal bones, smooth river stones, and shimmering oyster shells into fishhooks, harpoons, scrapers, and sturdy cutting blades. Every piece reflects careful attention, transforming ordinary natural materials into dependable companions for daily life. This practical knowledge passes gently between generations through quiet observation and steady practice, teaching children lasting respect for every gift offered by the shore. The ocean provides a remarkable sense of stability that many inland landscapes cannot easily offer throughout changing seasons. While hunters farther inland often follow wandering herds across exhausting distances, coastal gatherers simply wait for the tide to retreat, before collecting fresh food along the shoreline. Exposed rocks reveal mussels, clams, crabs, and nourishing seaweed waiting to be gathered with little effort. Such dependable abundance leaves generous time for friendship, shared stories, peaceful reflection, meaningful cooperation, and quiet moments beside the endlessly breathing sea throughout every passing day together. As you watch these people, you realize that their deep connection to the coast creates a shared psychology, a collective mindset shaped by the horizon. They understand that they are part of a larger ecosystem, entirely dependent on the health of the estuaries and the regular arrival of seasonal fish migrations. There is no desire to hoard more than can be eaten fresh, as the sea acts as their permanent, living storehouse that never truly locks its doors. This lack of material anxiety breeds a gentle, generous culture where food is naturally shared among all members of the clan without count. The mind rests easily in such an environment, free from the modern pressure of accumulation, content with the simple assurance of daily sustenance. This profound stability inevitably leads to a quiet curiosity about what lies beyond the immediate familiar boundaries of the local bay or rocky headland. When every neighboring community along the endless coast is living the exact same rhythmic lifestyle, a natural curiosity begins to emerge between these separate groups. A young gatherer might look out at a distant point of land jutting into the gray water, wondering if the mussels there taste the same. They spot distant smoke rising beyond the shore, revealing neighbors and transforming the vast ocean into a welcoming pathway connecting countless coastal communities. The evening brings the community back together around the warmth of the hearth, where the daily catch is roasted slowly over hot, white stones. The savory aroma of cooking fish blends with the sharp scent of burning seaweed, creating an atmosphere of cozy, domestic comfort on the edge of the wilderness. Children play quietly in the soft sand, mimicking the movements of the shorebirds that run back and forth with the retreating surf. The adults converse in low, melodic tones, discussing the subtle changes they noticed in the water temperature or the flight patterns of the gulls. It is a peaceful scene, untouched by the chaotic noise of the modern world, wrapped in the soothing, repetitive soundtrack of the breaking waves. You feel the cool sand beneath your feet, holding a trace of the afternoon's lingering warmth as evening quietly settles across the bay. Above the dark hills, stars gradually awaken, their shimmering reflections trembling across the incoming tide. Nearby, someone gently taps a hollow log, creating a soothing rhythm that echoes the ocean's steady breathing. No words are necessary because this quiet music belongs naturally to the coast, blending people, waves, sky, and earth into one peaceful, timeless harmony beneath night. Historical evidence suggests these ancient coastal communities often enjoyed stronger health and greater height than many farming societies that appeared thousands of years afterward. Their varied seafood diet supplied abundant nutrients, while daily life encouraged steady movement without relentless physical strain. Gathering shellfish and fishing provided dependable nourishment without exhausting labor. Strong bodies supported long lives, allowing valuable knowledge to pass across generations. Their resilience served cooperation with nature instead of conquest, helping families thrive beside the ever-changing sea through patience and shared experience. The evening grows cooler, encouraging careful guardians to place heavy pieces of salt-soaked driftwood upon the central fire. Blue and green flames shimmer softly, illuminating peaceful faces resting inside sturdy shelters built from curved whale bones and thick thatch. Outside, the rising tide quietly reaches its highest point, washing over scattered rocks and gently erasing every footprint left behind during the day's gathering. Nature renews the shoreline with every cycle, offering calm reassurance through its endless rhythm of renewal. You allow your thoughts to settle into the quiet stillness of the ancient coast, letting every modern worry drift gently toward the dark sea. These shoreline communities trusted tomorrow's returning tides, familiar waters, and dependable neighbors. Nothing demanded immediate action beneath the peaceful midnight sky. The ocean quietly carried memories of countless generations who had lived along its shifting shores. Tonight, you simply rest among them, listening peacefully as the endless rhythm of gentle waves becomes your comforting lullaby forever. As the campfires fade into soft glowing embers, Complete silence gently settles across the sleeping coastline. The evening wind weakens until only the deep, rhythmic sound of distant waves rolling across outer reefs remains. This steady pulse calms both body and mind, encouraging every lingering tension to disappear. Ancient pathways across the sea will patiently wait for another sunrise. Tonight, the sheltered harbor offers complete peace, while the faithful ocean quietly watches over everyone resting safely beside its timeless shores. The transition from walking the shoreline to floating upon the water occurs so naturally that it leaves no sharp line in human history. You observe an early family standing at the mouth of a calm river estuary, watching a fallen log drift effortlessly downstream and float out into the quiet bay. The water does not swallow the wood. Instead, it holds it up, offering a simple, elegant lesson in buoyancy that our ancestors observed for generations. Soon, creative hands begin binding thick bundles of dry reeds together, or hollowing out fallen trees using controlled fire and sharp stone adzes. These first vessels are not built for daring voyages into the unknown, but are created simply to cross a quiet river without getting the family's spare clothes wet. Many archaeologists now support the coastal migration theory, suggesting that simple watercraft allowed humans to populate new continents far faster than traveling by land. While walking through dense forests and over rugged mountain ranges presents endless physical obstacles, the smooth surface of the coastal water provides an open, flat highway. A simple raft or dugout canoe can easily carry an entire family, along with their woven baskets, stone tools, and dry firewood, with minimal physical exertion. Moving at a leisurely pace of just a few kilometers each day, these early mariners simply follow the natural flow of the local marine currents. It was the prehistoric equivalent of taking the scenic route on a lazy Sunday afternoon, with the added benefit of a constantly changing view. The water today is as smooth as a sheet of polished gray jade, perfectly reflecting the soft, low-moving clouds of the early morning sky. The tiny boat glides forward with a gentle, rhythmic splash as a wooden paddle dips into the water, leaving a trail of miniature whirlpools behind. There is no engine noise, no rush, and no mechanical pressure. The journey moves entirely at the speed of human muscle and patient water currents. The paddlers do not fight against the ocean. They wait for the tide to turn in their favor, letting the natural movement of the sea do the heavy lifting. This gentle travel style transforms every journey into peaceful meditation, perfectly balanced with the ever-changing sea. Archaeologists have uncovered remarkable evidence of early seafaring through the discovery of obsidian, a volcanic glass prized for making exceptionally sharp stone tools. Obsidian artifacts found on distant Mediterranean islands match volcanic sources located many kilometers across open water, proving prehistoric people regularly crossed the sea. Since this heavy material could never drift naturally between islands, it confirms organized maritime travel and exchange. These skilled navigators confidently ventured beyond familiar coastlines, seeking better resources, while expanding knowledge, cooperation, and opportunity across connected coastal worlds together. For these early mariners, traveling across water never feels like a dangerous adventure, but instead becomes a natural continuation of walking along the shoreline. The sea is simply another landscape to understand, rewarding patience and careful observation. Familiar hills remain visible, offering constant reassurance throughout every journey. Experienced navigators notice changing watercolors, recognizing deep channels, shallow sandbars, and hidden rocks with remarkable confidence. Such intimate knowledge transforms broad coastal waters into familiar places where every wave, current, and breeze feels reassuringly known together. As afternoon sunlight slowly softens toward evening, the small canoe glides gently onto a quiet crescent beach untouched by previous visitors. Its wooden hull slides softly across smooth, wet gravel, marking another safe arrival after a peaceful coastal journey. Travelers step into cool, shallow water, stretching tired legs before securing the canoe firmly beside sturdy driftwood, anchored deep within the sand. This familiar routine repeats across countless ancient shorelines, gradually extending human exploration while strengthening confidence in the welcoming pathways created by the sea itself. Evening arrives quietly as the travelers establish a small camp behind a tall sand dune, sheltering them from cool sea winds. Dry grasses and slender twigs quickly become a cheerful fire, casting warm light across smiling faces gathered close together. A simple meal of roasted fish and freshly gathered roots satisfies everyone after the day's journey. Looking back across the fading water, they quietly admire how distant the morning shoreline now appears. The faithful sea has safely carried them toward another peaceful resting place tonight. You hear the gentle rhythm of water softly touching the side of a resting canoe, marking the quiet passage of the night. Above the dark sea, brilliant stars appear in familiar patterns, reflecting faintly across the calm surface. Experienced mariners study these trusted constellations, knowing they will guide tomorrow's journey home. No fear of darkness lingers here because the welcoming shoreline always remains nearby. Your thoughts gradually settle into peaceful stillness, drifting gently beside the ancient boats upon calm waters beneath the endless sky tonight. Many ancient canoes display slight asymmetry or include a small outrigger that appears unusual to modern observers. Rather than mistakes, these thoughtful designs help boats remain stable against local winds, waves, and shifting currents. Skilled builders relied upon careful observation instead of written plans, gradually shaping each vessel until it moved smoothly with the sea. Their craftsmanship reflected cooperation rather than control, allowing lightweight watercraft to serve generations faithfully. Quiet experience and patient learning created remarkable engineering perfectly suited to each familiar coastline together. The central fire slowly settles into glowing crimson embers, spreading gentle warmth across the sleeping camp beside the quiet shore. Cool night breezes whisper through coastal pines, blending softly with the distant murmur of waves breaking beyond the outer rocks. Moonlight glides across the calm sea, turning its smooth surface into dark, shimmering silk. Every creature has found peaceful rest within nature's dependable rhythm. You feel calm spreading gently through your thoughts, comforted by the reassuring stillness surrounding both land and water tonight. Allow your thoughts to drift as lightly as weathered driftwood floating across a calm tidal pool beneath gentle sunlight. Nothing demands your attention tonight, and no distant destination needs to be reached before dawn arrives. Ancient travelers opened these coastal pathways through patience, quiet observation, and countless careful journeys across familiar waters. You simply rest beside their enduring legacy, comforted by the certainty that every tide eventually returns home. Your breathing naturally follows the slow, peaceful rhythm of the timeless sea beneath endless stars. After midnight, profound silence settles completely across the ancient coastline, embracing every resting traveler with quiet security and calm. A small wooden canoe rocks gently within the sheltered harbor, its soft movement becoming a peaceful cradle beneath the stars. Overhead, familiar constellations continue their slow journey across the vast night sky, watching ancient coastal routes below. Tomorrow will invite fresh discoveries and new horizons, yet tonight belongs entirely to restful sleep beside the faithful sea, wrapped in enduring peace forever. The early morning sun illuminates the damp sand, revealing small treasures that have been carried along the coast by the slow, deliberate hand of primitive trade. You observe two distinct groups of people meeting on a neutral, sandy spit of land where a clear river empties into the vast, salty sea. They do not approach each other with loud shouting or aggressive posturing. Instead, their movements are remarkably slow, deliberate, and respectful of the space between them. On clean woven mats, they carefully display small, beautiful objects that have traveled hundreds of miles along the shifting shorelines through dozens of hands. There are polished greenstone adzes, shimmering spiral shells glowing with soft iridescent pink, carefully stitched leather pouches filled with brilliant red ochre, and other treasured objects gathered through generations of coastal exchange. An astonishing reality revealed by modern archaeology is just how far these prehistoric goods traveled long before the invention of money, horses, or wheel-bound transport. Researchers excavating ancient graves frequently find rare Baltic amber in the Mediterranean and exotic seashells from the warm Indian Ocean buried deep within continental European caves. These items did not move through massive commercial caravans, but rather through a gentle, continuous process of gift-giving between neighboring coastal families. It means that an ancient teenager living in a cold northern forest could wear a necklace made of shells from a beach that nobody in their entire tribe had ever seen or even knew existed. This network operated purely on the universal human desire for beautiful, unique things, creating a delicate web of connection that spanned entire continents. You watch as an elder gently picks up a smooth piece of dark blue stone, holding it up to the soft morning light to admire its flawless, deep coloration. The object feels heavy and reassuringly cold in the palm of the hand, carrying the unique texture of a distant mountain range where the sea cannot reach. There is no frantic haggling over price, no stress about profit margins, and no modern economic urgency to disrupt the peaceful atmosphere of the exchange. The transaction is conducted through quiet nods, soft murmurs of appreciation, and a mutual understanding of the immense human effort required to carry this gift here. This gentle style of commerce functions more like an elaborate, friendly dance, where the primary goal is not accumulation, but the building of lasting social trust. The objects themselves move with an incredibly relaxed cadence, often resting within a single family or village for an entire generation before being passed along the line. A beautiful shell ornament might spend 30 years comforting a mother on the Atlantic coast before her son carries it further south during a seasonal berry gathering trip. Because of this slow movement, every single item carries a rich cumulative history, accumulating names, stories, and spiritual meaning as it passes from hand to hand. The person who finally buries the object in a sacred hill may not know the exact geographical origin of the gift, but they feel the profound weight of its long, peaceful journey. It makes you realize that the best things in life are often those that take their sweet time getting to us, much like a slow-cooking stew or a well-traveled postcard. As the sun reaches its highest point, the two groups sit down together in the soft shade of the coastal willows to share a communal meal of roasted crabs and sweet berries. The shared act of eating breaks down any lingering cultural barriers, turning strangers into recognized extended relatives who share the same deep respect for the ocean's bounty. They exchange valuable information along with their material gifts, describing the recent behavior of the local salmon runs or warning of a new rockfall near the southern cliffs. This fluid exchange of knowledge is just as precious as the physical commodities, providing each group with a wider mental map of the world that extends far beyond their own physical footsteps. The ocean acts as a giant telephone wire, carrying news and ideas down the coast at a gentle, unhurried pace. The afternoon fades into a golden, peaceful twilight, and the visitors begin loading their simple watercraft with the newly acquired treasures, wrapped carefully in dry moss. The boats ride slightly lower in the water now, carrying the tangible weight of new friendships and strengthened alliances back to their distant home bays. The hosts stand at the water's edge, watching the small vessels glide smoothly out into the glassy river current until they disappear around the forested bend. There is a deep, satisfying comfort in knowing that your community is not isolated in the vast wilderness, but is part of a grand, interconnected network of human lives. Your own mind feels similarly connected tonight, resting easily within the supportive framework of a shared human history that spans across the waters. You can hear the soft rustle of the evening wind moving through the tall sea oats that stabilize the sandy dunes, a soothing sound that mimics the gentle retreat of the tide. The stars open their bright eyes over the quiet estuary, casting a long, shimmering path of silver light across the dark, brackish water where the river meets the sea. The gifts exchanged today are resting safely in the dark shelters, their silent presence bringing a profound sense of wealth and security to the sleeping village. True wealth back then was not measured by numbers in a digital bank account, but by the number of friendly fires you could safely sit beside along the endless coast. This ancient, relational view of security allows your thoughts to settle into a state of complete unburdened peace as the night deepens. The crackling campfire slowly fades into glowing embers, filling the quiet night with a comforting rhythm that echoes across the peaceful shoreline. Its gentle light reflects softly from polished stone tools resting beside the sleeping travelers, while cool evening air carries the scent of salt and drifting wood. Beyond the camp, the immense Atlantic or Pacific tide begins its slow return, pushing fresh seawater through winding river channels and quietly washing away every footprint left upon the sand with patient, timeless care beneath countless stars above. The returning tide gently smooths the shoreline once more, preparing the quiet beach for future journeys, shared gatherings, peaceful discoveries, and countless welcoming encounters between humanity and the ever-faithful sea. No lasting scars remain upon the landscape, only quiet memories carried home in grateful hearts after another safe journey. You allow your thoughts to drift with the incoming tide, leaving every modern worry behind. Wrapped within the peaceful silence of the prehistoric coast, your breathing grows slower, your body completely relaxed, and your mind gently embraces the deep, restorative comfort of the ancient night. The passage of centuries brings a slow, inevitable transformation to the geography of the ancient world, as the great glaciers continue their magnificent, unhurried retreat. You observe a family of coastal dwellers standing on a high, grassy bluff, looking out over a wide bay that their great-grandparents once described as a fertile, forested valley. The rising water does not come as a sudden, catastrophic deluge that inspires terror or panic. Instead, it arrives with the patient persistence of an endless succession of morning tides. Each year, the high water mark creeps just a few inches further inland, gently turning low meadows into shallow saltwater marshes and isolated hills into beautiful new islands. The people do not despair over this shifting landscape. They simply adjust their daily walking paths, moving their seasonal camps a few yards up the slope with a calm, stoic acceptance of nature's changing will. One of the most remarkable examples of prehistoric environmental change is Doggerland, the immense lowland that once linked eastern Britain with present-day Denmark, the Netherlands, and northern Germany. Between roughly 20,000 and 8,000 years ago, this landscape contained winding rivers, freshwater lakes, marshes, open grasslands, and forests of birch, pine, hazel, and later oak. Archaeologists and geologists have reconstructed its existence through seismic mapping, sediment cores, pollen analysis, submerged river channels, and thousands of artifacts recovered from the North Sea. Hunter-gatherers followed migrating red deer, elk, aurochs, and wild boar while establishing seasonal camps beside rich waterways filled with fish, waterfowl, edible plants, and abundant natural resources supporting generations of peaceful communities together. As glaciers continued melting after the last ice age, global sea levels rose steadily, gradually flooding Doggerland across many centuries, rather than disappearing in a single catastrophic event. Around 8,200 years ago, geological evidence indicates the enormous Storegga submarine landslide off the Norwegian coast generated a powerful tsunami that swept across parts of the remaining lowlands, accelerating the transformation already underway. Today, fishing vessels and scientific expeditions regularly recover preserved peat, ancient tree stumps, mammoth and woolly rhinoceros bones, antlers, worked flint tools, bone harpoons, and traces of prehistoric forests from the North Sea floor. Together, these remarkable discoveries reveal a thriving homeland where resilient communities patiently adapted as changing coastlines quietly reshaped their familiar world over countless generations. You watch as the ancient fishermen navigate their wooden canoes through a newly formed labyrinth of saltwater channels, where the tops of submerged pine trees still brush against the hull. The water is incredibly calm. Its surface acts like a dark mirror, reflecting the green leaves of the surrounding hillsides that are slowly becoming the new shoreline. The mariners use this environmental shift to their advantage, discovering that the new, shallow bays provide perfect spawning grounds for massive schools of herring and fat, succulent flatfish. They do not fight the changes happening to their home. They study the new currents, memorize the positions of the hidden reefs, and rewrite their mental maps with every passing season. This fluid adaptability turns what could be a crisis into a period of quiet discovery, proving that survival is always a matter of moving gracefully with the flow. The steady rise of the sea rarely ended prehistoric trade networks. Instead, it gradually reshaped them into new coastal routes. Archaeological evidence from Europe, Japan, Southeast Asia, and the Mediterranean shows that communities continued exchanging valuable materials despite changing shorelines. Obsidian from volcanic islands traveled hundreds of kilometers. Polished jade reached distant villages, and marine shells appeared far inland through established exchange systems. Rather than abandoning familiar sources when coastlines shifted, skilled navigators adjusted their journeys, launching sturdier canoes, improving paddles, and following newly formed bays, estuaries, and island chains that naturally replaced older overland pathways with remarkable resilience and shared purpose. The memory of earlier landscapes remained alive even after rivers became estuaries and valleys disappeared beneath rising seas. Anthropologists believe oral traditions often preserved knowledge of former coastlines, seasonal camps, and important gathering places long after they vanished from sight. Around evening fires, experienced elders described familiar hills, river crossings, and stone quarries that younger generations could no longer see, allowing invisible landmarks to survive through storytelling. These shared memories strengthened community identity and encouraged cooperation across expanding waters, demonstrating that human relationships, cultural knowledge, and trusted exchange networks endured far longer than the changing geography beneath their feet. As the golden afternoon sun bathes the changing coast in a warm amber light, a group of children plays on a brand new sandy beach that didn't exist 2 generations ago. They search for colorful pebbles and chase small crabs through the gentle surf, completely untroubled by the grand geological forces that are reshaping their world. The older generation looks on with quiet satisfaction, knowing that as long as the sea remains generous, their people will always find a place to thrive. There is a beautiful, timeless wisdom in this lifestyle, a refusal to worry about things that cannot be controlled, a complete trust in the underlying harmony of the cosmos. Your mind gently releases the rigid expectations of modern life, drifting peacefully upon the calm, flexible currents of ancient time, where patience, quiet acceptance, and nature's steady rhythm replace every lingering burden and worry. The twilight deepens, wrapping the newly formed archipelago in a soft cloak of deep blue and violet shadows that soften the edges of the wild landscape. A gentle evening breeze blows off the expanding ocean, carrying the rich, bracing scent of salt and deep water into the heart of the ancient forest. The travelers pull their canoes high up onto the new shoreline, tying them securely to the sturdy roots of ancient oaks that now stand at the water's edge. They gather in their simple shelters, listening to the comforting sound of the waves lapping against the shore just a little closer than they did in the days of their ancestors. The night is a peaceful sanctuary, a quiet space where the changing earth and the resilient human spirit rest together in perfect, undisturbed harmony. You can hear the deep, rhythmic pulse of the rising tide as it fills the new estuaries, a soothing sound that acts as the heartbeat of the changing world. The stars appear in brilliant, silent constellations above the dark water, their positions completely unaffected by the small movements of the shorelines below. The ancient mariners sleep deeply, secure in their ability to adapt to whatever new horizons the morning sun might reveal to them. There is no fear of the future in this camp, only a quiet, resting confidence in the timeless wisdom of the human journey. You allow your thoughts to sink into this profound coastal peace, content to let the changing tides carry you into a state of deep, restorative rest. The endless repetition of short coastal journeys over thousands of years slowly transforms the vast, terrifying expanse of the open ocean into a familiar, welcoming space. You observe a group of ancient mariners preparing their vessels at the edge of a wide, blue channel that stretches all the way to the horizon, where the opposite shore is nothing more than a faint blue smudge. They do not look at this open water with dread or superstitious fear. Their eyes are calm and analytical, trained by generations of daily observation to read the subtle language of the sea. The water is no longer a hostile barrier separating them from the unknown, but a wide, open highway that they know exactly how to travel with patience and respect. Every current, every wind pattern, and every behavior of the marine life has become a well-understood chapter in their collective book of survival. One of the most extraordinary demonstrations of prehistoric maritime skill is the human settlement of Sahul, the ancient supercontinent that united Australia, New Guinea, and Tasmania during periods of lower Ice Age sea levels. Although these lands were connected to one another, they remained separated from mainland Southeast Asia by the deep water channels of Wallacea, including the famous Wallace Line. Because these ocean passages were never exposed by falling seas, reaching Sahul more than 50,000 years ago required intentional sea crossings. Archaeological discoveries, genetic evidence, and sophisticated computer simulations all support the conclusion that early humans deliberately built watercraft capable of carrying families, tools, food, and essential knowledge across stretches of open ocean that extended many dozens of kilometers beyond visible coastlines. Researchers believe these remarkable journeys demanded careful planning, cooperation, and an impressive understanding of tides, currents, winds, and distant island landmarks. Such expeditions were unlikely to have been accidental because successful settlement required enough people to establish lasting communities after arrival. Stone tools, ancient occupation sites, and genetic studies indicate that human populations spread rapidly throughout Sahel after these crossings, adapting to deserts, tropical forests, mountains, and long coastlines with remarkable success. These achievements reveal that our prehistoric ancestors possessed advanced maritime abilities thousands of years before sails, compasses, metal ships, or written maps existed, relying instead upon observation, shared experience, memory, and generations of carefully preserved navigational knowledge. The morning sea is a calm, vast sheet of deep sapphire blue, moving with a slow, powerful swell that lifts the wooden vessels up and down with an incredibly regular, soothing rhythm. The paddlers maintain a relaxed, unhurried stroke, their muscles moving in perfect synchronization with the natural rising and falling of the ocean surface. They do not waste energy trying to sprint across the water. They understand that the ocean cannot be rushed and that the journey must unfold at its own natural pace. A gentle, steady breeze blows from behind them, filling their small woven mats and helping to push the heavy dugout canoes effortlessly across the gentle swells. This effortless movement creates a profound sense of peace on board, transforming a voyage across the deep into a quiet, meditative drift through a world of endless blue. To navigate these open waters without mechanical instruments, the ancient mariners rely entirely on their intimate, sensory understanding of the natural elements around them. They listen closely to the distinct sound of the waves, knowing that a subtle change in the frequency of the splash indicates a hidden island resting just over the horizon. They watch the flight paths of the elegant frigate birds and boobies, who fly straight out to sea to hunt in the morning and return unerringly to their land-based nests as the sun begins to set. They feel the temperature of the water currents against their bare hands, using the invisible thermal rivers of the ocean to keep their vessels on the correct path. This deep, organic style of navigation requires a completely quiet, attentive mind, a state of awareness that is perfectly attuned to the subtle rhythms of the living planet. As the afternoon sun begins to lower itself into the western water, the faint blue smudge on the horizon slowly sharpens into a beautiful green coastline lined with sandy white beaches. The mariners show no wild excitement or frantic relief upon spotting the new land. They simply nod in quiet validation of the ancestral knowledge that told them exactly where the island would be. They guide their canoes through a narrow protective gap in the coral reef, entering a perfectly calm lagoon where the water is as clear as liquid glass. The transition from the deep, rolling ocean to the still, protected harbor is incredibly smooth, a gentle closing of another successful chapter in their ongoing relationship with the sea. The island welcomes them with the sweet, fragrant scent of blooming tropical flowers and damp earth, carried out to meet them on the evening breeze. The evening camp is established on the high tide line of the protective shade of leaning coconut palms, their long fronds rustling softly in the steady trade winds. A small fire is kindled on the sand, its warm, flickering light casting long, playful shadows across the polished wooden hulls of the resting canoes. The travelers sit together in a circle, laughing softly as they recount the curious behavior of a large sea turtle that swam alongside them for several miles during the afternoon. These lighthearted stories help to weave the open ocean into the cozy fabric of their daily domestic life, making the deep sea feel just as safe and familiar as their own backyard. Your mind settles effortlessly within this peaceful tropical sanctuary, gently releasing every modern worry about distance, uncertainty, or isolation. Surrounded by the steady rhythm of waves and warm coastal air, you feel completely present, safe, and deeply content, resting quietly upon the welcoming edge of this ancient world. You hear the soft, musical whisper of gentle waves gliding across the shallow coral reef, their soothing rhythm marking the calm passage of the warm tropical night, filling the quiet shoreline with peaceful harmony and comforting stillness beneath countless distant stars. The stars emerge in a brilliant, dense canopy above the dark ocean, their timeless arrangements providing a magnificent, glowing map that guides the human imagination across the dark. The mariners look up at the familiar celestial markers with a sense of deep gratitude, recognizing the ancient star paths that will eventually carry their children back to the home shores. There is a beautiful resting security in this vast maritime world, a realization that as long as the stars shine and the birds fly, you are never truly lost. You allow your own thoughts to dissolve into this immense starry peace, falling asleep to the eternal comforting lullaby of the open sea. The vast expanses of the ancient world are not mapped with ink on fragile parchment or pixels on a glowing screen, but are preserved perfectly within the living sanctuary of human memory. You observe an elder sitting cross-legged on a smooth stone overlook, gesturing slowly toward the dark ocean while a young apprentice listens with intense, quiet concentration. They do not look at lines drawn on paper. Instead, they trace invisible pathways across the water using the oral histories, rhythmic songs, and ancestral stories passed down through generations. To these people, a map is not a physical object you can lose or damage in a storm, but a living, breathing part of your own mind that travels with you wherever you go. Every rocky islet, every hidden sandbar, and every predictable change in the deep water is given a unique name and a specific verse in a grand, epic song of navigation. One of the most remarkable expressions of traditional ocean knowledge appears in the stick charts created by the indigenous navigators of the Marshall Islands across the central Pacific. These elegant teaching tools were carefully woven from the flexible midribs of coconut fronds and strengthened with fine plant fibers, while tiny cowrie shells or other small markers represented important islands and atolls. Rather than functioning as conventional maps showing exact distances or coastlines, the charts illustrated relationships between ocean swells, prevailing winds, currents, and the wave reflections produced when moving water encountered islands. Anthropologists studying Marshallese navigation have documented several chart styles, each designed to teach different aspects of reading the sea before young navigators undertook long ocean voyages guided entirely by experience and observation. The true purpose of these remarkable charts was never to carry them aboard a canoe during travel, but to train memory, perception, and bodily awareness long before departure. Experienced navigators learn to recognize subtle differences in the rolling, pitching, and gentle vibrations transmitted through the wooden hull as multiple wave systems crossed beneath them. By combining these physical sensations with observations of stars, winds, clouds, seabirds, and ocean color, they could estimate their location even when no land appeared on the horizon. Modern researchers have praised this sophisticated system as an extraordinary achievement in environmental knowledge, demonstrating that careful observation, disciplined practice, and generations of shared experience could produce astonishing navigational accuracy without compasses, instruments, or written maps. The morning ocean is exceptionally quiet, its surface moving with a long, lazy swell that feels like the slow breathing of a giant, sleeping creature under the pale gray sky. The young navigator stands at the bow of the wooden canoe, closing their eyes to shut out the deceptive glare of the sun so they can focus entirely on the physical sensations beneath their feet. They feel a sharp, rhythmic bumping against the hull, recognizing it instantly as the reflected swell from a chain of small islands located dozens of miles to the north. This tactile understanding of the water transforms the dark sea into a highly detailed embossed text that their body knows exactly how to read without effort. There is no frantic guesswork or modern anxiety on board, only a calm, resting confidence in the accuracy of the acoustic and physical signs provided by the ocean. This incredible reliance on oral tradition ensures that the knowledge of the sea is never isolated from the deeper moral and spiritual values of the community. A song that describes the route to a distant obsidian quarry also contains vital lessons about respect, generosity, and the proper way to greet strangers upon arrival. The geographical landmarks are inextricably linked to the legendary exploits of ancestral heroes, making the act of sailing a deep spiritual journey through time as well as space. This means that when you travel across the blue water, you are never alone. You are literally walking in the footsteps of your grandfathers, guided by their voices echoing through the rhythm of the chant. In many ways, the remembered voice of a grandparent became the finest navigation guide available in the ancient world, carrying generations of carefully preserved wisdom. Every remembered instruction, familiar story, and quiet lesson helped travelers find their way across open waters with confidence, patience, and remarkable accuracy. As the quiet afternoon deepens, the elder begins to sing a low, melodic chant that mimics the rising and falling cadence of the local trade winds. The words flow smoothly, describing how the bright star Vega will rise exactly over a specific pointed hill when the canoe is on the correct path to the southern valleys. The apprentice listens with a completely relaxed, open mind, letting the rhythm of the words sink deep into their subconscious memory where it will remain forever. This slow, repetitive method of teaching ensures that the knowledge is preserved without alteration, it maintaining a perfect bridge of information across hundreds of years of human history. Your mind settles peacefully within this unbroken chain of generations, finding deep comfort in a world where wisdom lives on through gentle voices, shared memories, patient teaching, and the enduring love passed from one family to the next. The twilight approaches, casting a soft, golden sheen over the calm waters of the protected lagoon where the canoe finally rests after the day's training. The apprentice ties the vessel to a wooden stake driven deep into the soft mud, their hands moving with the easy confidence of someone who has found their true place in the world. They look out at the darkening ocean, no longer seeing a chaotic, terrifying void, but a highly organized, beautifully poetic landscape filled with familiar friends and clear highways. The stories told by the elders have populated the empty water with meaning, turning the vast blue planet into a cozy, intelligible home for their people. Your own thoughts settle into a state of quiet comfort tonight, resting safely within the organized, rhythmic beauty of this ancient mental map. You can hear the steady, soothing rustle of the wind through the thatched roofs of the coastal village, a sound that has signaled safety and rest for millennia. The stars ignite one by one in the deep indigo sky, aligning themselves perfectly with the geographical descriptions contained within the evening songs. The community gathers around the central fire to listen to the elders tell the old stories once more, ensuring that the invisible maps are passed safely to the next generation of sleeping children. There is a deep, unshakable peace in this way of living, a realization that the most important things in life are those we carry safely inside our own hearts and minds. You allow your awareness to dissolve into the warm, rhythmic cadence of the ancient chant, falling asleep to the timeless memory of the sea. The rising morning sun casts a long, golden trail across the calm waters of Melanesia, where a silent network of maritime trade has quietly operated for countless generations. You observe several small outrigger canoes gliding smoothly across a protected channel, their woven pandanus sails catching a gentle, steady breeze that pushes them effortlessly toward a neighboring island. These people do not belong to a single, unified empire, nor do they share a centralized government or a written language to enforce their agreements. Instead, they are bound together by a delicate, invisible web of personal relationships, family alliances, and mutual trust that has been carefully cultivated over thousands of years. Their interactions are characterized by an incredible, unhurried calmness, a shared understanding that a successful trade relationship is far more valuable than the physical items being exchanged. Extensive archaeological research into the prehistoric Lapita culture has revealed one of the largest maritime interaction networks of the ancient world. Flourishing across near and remote Oceania between roughly 1600 and 500 BCE, Lapita communities spread through island chains stretching from the Bismarck archipelago to Fiji, Tonga, and Samoa. Archaeologists have identified their distinctive dentate-stamped pottery, shell ornaments, and carefully crafted stone tools at hundreds of coastal settlements. Using geochemical fingerprinting techniques such as X-ray fluorescence and other compositional analyses, scientists have traced obsidian artifacts recovered across thousands of kilometers of islands to specific volcanic sources in the Admiralty Islands, New Britain, and nearby regions. These discoveries demonstrate that valuable materials traveled repeatedly through extensive networks, linking many distant island communities over generations. The movement of obsidian across such enormous distances reveals far more than impressive seafaring ability. Every exchange required trust, hospitality, cooperation, and enduring social relationships maintained between communities separated by vast stretches of ocean. Rather than functioning as markets driven primarily by profit or competition, these maritime networks likely strengthened alliances through reciprocal gift exchange, ceremonial gatherings, marriages, shared knowledge, and mutual assistance during difficult seasons. Anthropologists believe such exchanges reduced conflict by encouraging regular contact and reinforcing obligations between neighboring islands. Each carefully transported piece of volcanic glass carried not only practical value for making sharp tools, but also memories, friendships, stories, and promises, quietly weaving thousands of kilometers of ocean into a connected human landscape, sustained by cooperation across countless generations. The ocean today is remarkably peaceful, its surface rippling with tiny, rhythmic wavelets that lap softly against the polished wooden hulls of the traveling canoes. The mariners sit in relaxed postures, their hands resting lightly on the steering paddles as they allow the natural currents to guide them toward the familiar sandy cove. There is no frantic rush to beat a competitor to the market, no modern stress over fluctuating exchange rates, and no anxiety about material wealth. The entire journey moves at the slow, therapeutic pace of the natural world, allowing the mind to settle into a state of deep, unburdened relaxation. The traders see the sea not as a place to compete or conquer, but as a generous, shared pathway that quietly links distant communities, strengthens lasting friendships, encourages peaceful exchange, and reminds every traveler that the wider human family is connected by the same enduring waters. When the canoes gently grate against the soft white sand of the host island, there are no loud celebrations or aggressive commercial negotiations to disrupt the coastal quiet. The visitors are greeted with a slow, formal ceremony of welcome, where fresh coconut water is shared in polished shells to wash away the salt dust of the journey. The exchange of goods takes place on clean woven mats under the cool shade of ancient banyan trees, accompanied by low-toned conversations and gentle laughter. A beautifully polished greenstone axe is exchanged for a bundle of fine, intricately woven textiles, not because one is objectively worth more than the other, but because the exchange seals a lifelong friendship. This relational style of commerce ensures that every physical object carries the emotional warmth of the human hands that created and carried it across the sea. As the quiet afternoon slips into a warm, amber twilight, the two communities sit down together along the beach to share a massive feast of roasted fish, sweet yams, and fresh tropical fruits. The shared experience of dining together reinforces their mutual dependence, transforming potential geographical rivals into trusted extended family members who will always watch over each other's safety. They exchange valuable environmental observations, sharing updates on the health of the local coral reefs or discussing the unusually early arrival of the seasonal trade winds. This constant, fluid movement of practical knowledge down the island chain ensures that even the most isolated communities remain deeply connected to the collective intelligence of their era. The maritime network acts as a gentle, slow-moving nervous system for the ancient world, carrying vital information across the blue water with absolute reliability. The evening brings a deep, profound stillness to the island network as the canoes are pulled high up onto the grass and covered carefully with thick palm fronds to protect them from the night dew. Small fires burn softly along the shoreline, their warm orange light reflecting beautifully on the calm surface of the incoming tide that gently resets the sandy beach. The traders rest comfortably in the guest shelters, their minds completely at ease, wrapped in the comforting knowledge that they are surrounded by true friends who honor the ancient laws of hospitality. There are no locks on the doors, no guard dogs barking in the dark, only the deep, protective silence of a world built on mutual respect and shared survival. You allow your thoughts to settle gently within this peaceful sanctuary of connected islands, releasing every lingering worry as the soft rhythm of waves, warm evening breezes, and the quiet song of the tropical night slowly carries your mind into deep, restorative calm. You can hear the steady, musical murmur of the outer reef breaking the great ocean swells, a soothing bass note that has anchored the sleep of islanders for thousands of years. The stars ignite in brilliant, dense clusters across the velvety tropical sky, mapping out the clear celestial pathways that connect all these isolated pieces of land into a single, cohesive home. The ancient network rests quietly in the dark, its invisible lines of trust held firmly in place by the shared memories and songs of the sleeping mariners below. True security in this vast world is found not in stone walls or hoarded wealth, but in the enduring strength of the friendships you have paddled across the sea to build. You close your eyes to the gentle, rhythmic sigh of the tide, falling into a deep, restorative sleep alongside the ancient traders of the peaceful sea. The gentle, slow-moving networks of prehistoric trade gradually lay the unseen foundation for the great maritime empires that will later dominate the pages of recorded history. You observe the soft morning light illuminating an ancient coastal settlement during the transition to the Neolithic era, where the simple wooden shelters are slowly giving way to sturdy, permanent stone foundations. The small, localized exchange of beautiful shells and obsidian rocks has subtly matured into a more regular, organized flow of essential raw materials, agricultural seeds, and metal ores. Yet, despite this increase in scale, the fundamental relationship with the sea remains remarkably unchanged, characterized by the same deep patience and respect for the water. The mariners still do not seek to conquer or dominate the open ocean. They simply continue to walk their ancestral paths across the water, moving with the timeless cadence of the tides. One remarkable conclusion emerging from modern archaeology is that many celebrated maritime civilizations inherited, rather than created, the sea routes they later mastered. The Phoenicians in the Mediterranean, traders sailing through the Red Sea, and the merchants of the Indus Valley all benefited from coastal pathways explored over countless earlier generations. Archaeological discoveries suggest that long before the Bronze Age, prehistoric communities had already learned where dependable currents flowed, where sheltered bays offered safe landings, and where fresh water could be found beside the shore. Through continuous observation, seasonal travel, and repeated exchange between neighboring groups, these ancient navigators established practical networks that gradually connected distant coastlines. Later civilizations expanded these routes with larger vessels, organized commerce, and advanced technologies. But the geographic foundations had already been patiently discovered. When Phoenician ships crossed the Mediterranean and ventured toward the Atlantic in search of valuable metals such as Cornish tin, they followed coastlines whose rhythms had been understood for thousands of years. The same stars illuminated the night sky, familiar coves offered protection from storms, and predictable winds and currents guided experienced sailors from one harbor to another. Maritime archaeology, coastal settlement patterns, and environmental studies increasingly suggest remarkable continuity in how humans use these natural corridors across long stretches of history. Although later ships carried bronze tools, written records, and greater cargoes, their captains still depended upon the enduring geography of the sea. Every generation added knowledge, yet each voyage quietly honored discoveries first made by anonymous prehistoric navigators exploring the world's ancient shores. The sea today is exceptionally peaceful, its vast surface moving with a long, slow swell that lifts the heavier plank-built merchant vessels with a gentle, reassuring rhythm under the pale morning sun. The crew members do not experience the frantic, chaotic stress of modern commercial shipping. They work with a quiet, methodical efficiency, their movements perfectly tuned to the natural behavior of the wind and water. They adjust their large, square linen sails with easy coordination, allowing the steady afternoon breeze to push their valuable cargo of copper ingots and aromatic resins effortlessly down the coastline. The journey proceeds at a deeply relaxing, therapeutic pace, allowing the mind to detach completely from the frantic anxieties of the modern world and settle into the grand, unhurried flow of historical time. This gradual expansion of coastal trade brings about a wonderful organic cross-pollination of human cultures, as different communities along the maritime highway share their unique ideas, technologies, and artistic styles. A potter working in a quiet coastal village might observe a beautifully decorated clay vessel brought from a distant northern bay, subtly incorporating its elegant geometric patterns into their own daily creations. The exchange of agricultural seeds and domesticated animals moves smoothly along the coast, transforming the diet and lifestyle of entire regions without the need for violent invasions or destructive conquests. This peaceful, fluid transmission of human ingenuity creates a shared cultural landscape where separate societies are gently woven together by their common reliance on the sea. The ocean functions as a magnificent, slow-moving mirror that reflects and amplifies the very best achievements of the human spirit. As the golden afternoon light bathes the bustling coastal harbor in a warm amber glow, a group of local merchants sits comfortably on smooth stone benches near the water's edge to discuss the season's arrivals. They converse in a rich, melodic mixture of different regional dialects, using simple, shared gestures and friendly smiles to overcome any linguistic boundaries between them. There is no aggressive competition or modern financial pressure to disrupt the pleasant atmosphere of the harbor. The transaction of goods is still conducted with a deep, personal emphasis on hospitality and mutual respect. They share a large jar of cool, sweet palm wine and a basket of fresh roasted figs, celebrating the safe arrival of the traveling mariners who have brought the wealth of the distant world to their shores. The mind rests easily in this harbor sanctuary, feeling the deep, protective security of a world where human connection is valued above all else. The twilight deepens across the expanding maritime network, wrapping the ancient stone docks and the resting merchant ships in a soft, protective blanket of deep indigo and violet shadows. A cool, bracing breeze blows off the open ocean, carrying the rich, salty fragrance of the deep sea into the narrow, winding streets of the growing coastal town. The sailors secure their heavy vessels with thick, braided hemp ropes tied tightly to large stone bollards, ensuring that the ship will rest safely through the dark hours of the incoming tide. They gather around comfortable hearths in local guest houses, listening to the soothing, familiar sound of the water lapping against the stone walls just outside the window. The night becomes a peaceful sanctuary where the timeless stillness of the sea and the quiet unfolding of human history exist together in perfect harmony. Beneath the endless stars, every wave, every gentle breeze, every silent memory gently invites your mind into lasting calm, balance, and peaceful rest. You can hear the steady, rhythmic pulse of the ocean's swell striking the thick stone breakwater, a deep, resonant sound that provides an absolute sense of safety to the sleeping harbor. The stars ignite in magnificent, glittering constellations above the dark water, their timeless positions continuing to offer a reliable, celestial map for the ongoing journey of human civilization. The ancient traders sleep deeply, completely untroubled by the grand rise and fall of future empires, secure in their daily relationship with the predictable rhythms of the earth. There is a profound, unshakable peace in this historical perspective, a realization that all great human achievements are built slowly, one quiet step at a time, through the shared patience of countless generations. You allow your own thoughts to dissolve into this vast, historic quiet, falling asleep to the eternal, comforting rhythm of the ancient sea. The soft, cooling twilight descends over the vast global ocean, casting a long, silver reflection across waters that hold the silent memories of humanity's earliest maritime journeys. You look out over a quiet, empty bay where the modern world completely disappears, leaving only the timeless elements of dark rock, pale sand, and wet wind. Beneath this moving blue surface lie the physical remains of thousands of prehistoric villages, ancient harbor walls, and forgotten wooden landing places that were swallowed up by the rising tides of history. The ocean does not display these ancient ruins like a modern museum with loud signs and glass cases. Instead, it wraps them in a deep, protective embrace of dark kelp, smooth sand, and cold salt water. It is a vast, liquid archive that quietly preserves the memory of every anonymous paddler, every simple wooden raft, and every quiet act of human courage that ever occurred along its shifting borders. A fascinating branch of modern marine science is the expanding field of underwater prehistoric archaeology, where researchers use advanced technologies such as sub-bottom sonar, seismic imaging, and remotely operated vehicles to explore landscapes hidden beneath the ocean floor. Across regions including the Mediterranean, the North Sea, and the Pacific, scientists have discovered submerged settlements containing ancient hearths, stone tool workshops, fishing structures, wooden posts, and traces of human activity preserved within layers of mud and sediment. These discoveries reveal that many areas now covered by seawater were once fertile coastal plains, river valleys, and islands where prehistoric communities lived, hunted, gathered food, and adapted to changing environments. The seabed is not an empty wilderness, but a vast archaeological archive preserving thousands of years of forgotten human stories beneath the waves. When global sea levels were lower during Ice Age periods, many modern ocean floors were dry landscapes filled with forests, wetlands, rivers, and rich coastal ecosystems. Families gathered shellfish, prepared meals beside open fires, created tools, and built temporary shelters in places that today lie far beneath the waves. Modern divers and researchers exploring these submerged worlds are effectively traveling through the vanished neighborhoods of ancient humanity. A person swimming beyond the shoreline may unknowingly pass above former hunting grounds, childhood gathering places, and ancestral homes preserved in silence below. These underwater discoveries transform the meaning of heritage itself, reminding us that human history is not limited to visible land, but extends into the hidden landscapes beneath the world's oceans. The evening ocean stretches before you, smooth and silent like a vast sheet of dark, polished obsidian, reflecting the fading colors of the sky. The surface barely moves except for a slow, invisible swell traveling beneath the water, gently rocking the hidden kelp forests far below. You stand at the edge of the damp sand, feeling the cool earth beneath your feet, while watching tiny bubbles of foam rise, shimmer briefly, and disappear with a soft, rhythmic hiss. That delicate sound feels like a whisper from forgotten ages, carrying echoes of ancient footsteps, lost coastal villages, and countless generations who once watched the same horizon with the same quiet wonder. The sea continues breathing calmly, unchanged by the passing of human lifetimes. The ocean does not preserve written records of names, dates, kingdoms, or the exact borders of ancient territories. It does not judge one generation as greater than another, nor does it hold on to human struggles, ambitions, victories, or failures. Instead, the endless water embraces every story with the same peaceful neutrality, slowly blending all memories into the greater movement of natural time. There is a deep comfort in knowing that the sea carries no permanent scars from forgotten mistakes or temporary worries. The tides erase footprints, the waves reshape the shore, and the currents continue their eternal journey. In this quiet moment, you feel released from the weight of modern concerns, allowing your mind to rest within the vast, forgiving rhythm of the ancient ocean. There is an incredible, comforting durability to the physical language of the sea, which has remained completely unchanged since the very first human looked out at the horizon. The sharp, clean smell of the salt spray, the cool texture of the wet gravel under your bare feet, and the specific, rhythmic cadence of the surf striking a rocky headland are identical to what an Ice Age hunter experienced 20,000 years ago. When you sit quietly by the shore tonight, listening to the water move through the smooth pebbles, you are hearing the exact same acoustic soundtrack that comforted the mariners of Doggerland and the traders of Lapita. This sensory consistency creates an invisible, unbreakable bridge through the millennia, allowing you to feel a deep, personal kinship with those who walked these shores before the first word of history was ever written down. The ocean acts as a permanent, living anchor for the human imagination, keeping us safely connected to the deep roots of our shared earthly journey. As the last purple and amber light of the sunset fades from the western sky, the vast horizon becomes beautifully simple, a single clean line dividing the dark earth from the deep blue space above. The ancient coastlines have moved, the wooden canoes have long since dissolved into the soil, and the names of the first navigators have been carried away by the wind into complete silence. Yet, their quiet spirit of adaptability, their profound patience, and their deep, respectful relationship with the water live on in the very way our species continues to look at the open sea with wonder. We do not stand before the ocean as conquering masters, but as curious children returning to a beautiful familiar home that has watched over our family since the very beginning of time. This realization allows your mind to release its final hold on the urgent worries of your modern life, content to be just another quiet observer resting safely on the shore. The night deepens across the world's waters, wrapping the endless miles of coastline in a profound, meditative stillness that encourages complete, undisturbed rest. A soft, cool breeze begins to blow from the interior hills out toward the deep water, carrying the faint, clean scent of damp pine needles and sleepy earth to mix with the salty breath of the sea. The incoming tide reaches its high water mark with an incredibly gentle musical splash against the dark rocks, a sound that signals a time for absolute quiet and deep physical relaxation. The sea remembers everyone not by carving their names in cold stone, but by continuing to play the magnificent rhythmic song that guided their lives and now anchors your sleep. You allow your awareness to sink comfortably into this vast, liquid memory, falling asleep to the eternal, soothing heartbeat of the primeval ocean. The long journey through the shifting tides of human history eventually brings us back to the absolute simplicity of the ocean. Beneath a vast velvet sky, the dark waters rest quietly, reflecting ancient stars that have witnessed the rise and fall of countless generations. From this cosmic perspective, every human achievement becomes a brief moment within a much greater story. Empires, cities, and civilizations may shine brightly, yet they remain only small waves upon the endless ocean of geological time. The sea does not preserve the borders drawn by human hands, or remember the walls built to separate one group from another. It continues its endless movement through tides, currents, storms, and gentle winds. Mountains slowly wear away, coastlines transform, and islands appear or disappear beneath changing waters. The ocean follows no human calendar and obeys no political boundary. It simply continues its ancient dance, patiently reshaping the planet while reminding humanity of its temporary place. Every great maritime route, every coastal kingdom, and every civilization that flourished beside the sea eventually experiences profound transformation. The same waters that carried ancient traders, explorers, and travelers toward distant horizons also slowly reclaimed forgotten harbors, coastal settlements, and vanished landscapes beneath the waves. The ocean does not destroy these places completely. Instead, it preserves their memories while becoming part of the planet's endless cycle of change, renewal, and discovery across countless generations. This transformation is not a tragedy, but a natural process that allows the Earth to remain vibrant and alive. As ancient shores disappear beneath rising waters, new coastlines emerge, new ecosystems develop, and new communities discover different paths forward. Every changing landscape becomes another chapter in the planet's immense story. The Earth continues moving through time because nothing remains permanently fixed, and every transformation creates opportunities for new forms of life and connection. The true legacy of prehistoric humans was never contained within enormous stone monuments or permanent buildings designed to resist time. Their greatest achievement was the wisdom to adapt gracefully to a changing world. They understood the language of rivers, tides, animals, winds, and seasons. They learned that survival depended not on controlling nature, but on respecting its rhythms. Their flexible way of living allowed them to endure countless changes while remaining connected to the earth around them. Ancient coastal communities understood a truth that modern societies often forget. Nature cannot be defeated, only understood. They watched the movement of clouds, the direction of waves, and the behavior of migrating animals. Every observation became knowledge passed from one generation to another. Their intelligence was quiet but powerful, hidden within daily actions rather than written records. This deep connection with the environment became a foundation that allowed humanity to survive across thousands of years. Across the endless passage of time, one thing remains beautifully familiar: the rhythm of the tides. The ocean continues breathing with the same steady movement that comforted ancient sailors, fishermen, and coastal families. The stars still appear above the dark water, following patterns recognized by countless generations before us. The same winds travel across the same seas, carrying echoes of forgotten journeys. The ocean remains a bridge connecting the distant past with the present moment. As midnight approaches, the modern world slowly disappears beneath the peaceful silence of the ancient coastline. The sounds of machines, worries, and responsibilities become distant memories. Only the gentle waves remain, moving toward the shore with a calming rhythm that feels older than human history itself. The darkness becomes a protective shelter, allowing the mind to release every burden. Here beside the sea, there is nothing to achieve, nothing to prove, and nowhere else to be. The waves gently embrace the shoreline before retreating into the vast ocean, leaving behind a smooth, silent, and refreshed beach beneath the fading light. Every tide arrives carrying a different story, creating new patterns across the sand while quietly erasing traces left behind by previous moments. The coastline becomes a living symbol of nature's endless movement, transformation, and renewal. Nothing remains completely unchanged forever. Yet every passing instant becomes connected to a greater rhythm shared between the earth, the water, and the endless passage of time. The footprints left upon the soft sand slowly disappear beneath the returning waves, just as human worries, fears, and struggles eventually become distant memories carried away by time. This simple ocean movement reveals a deeper truth about existence itself. Life is always changing, and every transformation can contain the possibility of healing and growth. Change does not always represent an ending. Sometimes it creates a quiet beginning, offering a peaceful chance to continue forward within nature's endless cycle of renewal and balance. Tonight, there are no distant horizons calling for exploration and no unanswered questions demanding immediate attention. The ancient shoreline surrounds you with complete stillness, creating a feeling of safety, connection, and belonging. Beneath you rests the same ancient earth that supported countless generations of humans before your arrival. Above you stretches the same endless sky that guided early travelers across unknown lands and waters. In this peaceful moment, everything feels perfectly balanced, united within the quiet harmony of land, sea, sky, and timeless nature. The ocean creates an invisible bond connecting every human life that has ever existed along its shores. Ancient gatherers, fishermen, sailors, explorers, and travelers all listen to similar waves beneath the same endless sky. Although their languages, traditions, and ways of life changed throughout history, the sea remained a familiar and constant companion. This shared relationship with the ocean forms an unbroken thread stretching across thousands of years, reminding humanity that every individual story is connected to a much larger journey shaped by nature, time, and the enduring rhythm of the world. The wisdom carried by the ancient ocean is simple, yet deeply meaningful. Everything changes, but everything remains connected. Civilizations rise, flourish, and eventually disappear. Landscapes shift, and generations continue to replace one another. Yet the deeper patterns of nature remain steady and timeless. The tides return to the shore, the winds continue their journeys, and the stars still illuminate the waters above. Within this endless movement exists a quiet balance, offering humanity a place to reflect, embrace humility, and discover peace within existence's greater harmony. You are completely safe within the eternal embrace of the ancient ocean. The earth beneath you carries the memory of billions of years, while the waves beside you continue their timeless song. Every worry slowly dissolves into the darkness, carried away by the gentle movement of the tide. As sleep arrives, your thoughts drift peacefully with the sea, becoming part of the endless flow of nature. The ocean remains forever patient, calm, and deeply connected to all life. The script comes to a close. Thank you all for listening.